Sounds good. Let's do this. As you know, I'm Deborah Callahan. This is our Knowledge is Power Hour, and it's a forum for individuals to seek natural approaches for health issues, as well as optimizing their general health and well-being. Discussions are centered on holistic alternatives to a variety of health concerns, sharing knowledge as we grow together, and using our talents and gifts to make a difference in the wellness of this world. We feel that together we're creating a movement that can impact many lives. And a little bit about me, I've been helping people restore and optimize their health for over 30 years. My degrees are in nutrition and dietetics, exercise physiology, and cardiac rehabilitation. And I've had the privilege of working with several medical minds that have believed as I believe, and that's that the body can heal itself with given the proper nutrients and tools. So I would like to introduce my friend and my health and business partner, Adrienne Gerard. Go for it, Adrienne.
Thanks, Deb. That's right. I'm Adrienne Gerard. Those of you who know me, I am a registered nurse with a master's in holistic nutrition and a health coach for the last 30 plus years. And also, like Deb and Liz, we like to help people optimize their health with as natural approaches as possible. And we're very excited tonight to have our guests. Thank you for coming.
Great.
I'll turn it over now to my business partner and friend as well. Sorry, Liz.
Thanks, Adrienne. You guys, I'm just so thrilled that you're all here. My name's Liz Geeslin, as you know, and I'm a personal chef and I'm also a holistic wellness advocate. I became a certified health coach back in 2016. And I've just actually been on a continuing evolving health journey. And I feel so fortunate to be surrounded by both Deb and Adrienne. And then all of you have touched my lives in one way or another. And we continue to do so, which is exciting. It's what really this work. And we were just figuring, like I said, we started these Knowledge is Power back in April. And it's just been such a nice, comfortable place for people to ask questions and just learn more about holistic, what's the word am I looking for? Options to better health. So enough about that. I would like now to introduce a dear friend and also extremely talented and bright woman who are guest speaker today, Michelle Cardimen, and we are looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us today. So you may take the floor.
I am going to share my screen. I do have slides to go with what I'm talking about today, so I'm going to share my screen and hopefully it will come up. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When Liz asked me to talk about a topic tonight, I just had a recent experience within our family, so I was drawn to this topic. But I'm going to start first with a little bit of an introduction. So today we're going to talk a little bit about identifying and detoxing not only heavy metals, but also mycotoxins, which I was not really familiar with until I had to go through this experience. So a little bit about me. It might be blocked a little bit by the tab on the side, but I've been a registered nurse for over 30 years. Several years ago, I became a little disenfranchised with the regular medical way of treating things. So I became certified as a health and wellness coach. I got 2 certifications, started my own company called A Step Away Health and Wellness Coaching, and then became board certified as a health and wellness coach. And I'm currently still in school. It keeps wanting to change on me. Still in school for functional medicine training with the School of Applied Functional Medicine. And I'm hoping to complete that certification early in 2021. So I think the most important thing for me is that there may be flaws even within this presentation today because I am still learning, but it was something that was important to me. And so I thought I would share the information that I learned with all of you. So we're going to talk a little bit about mold and mycotoxins. And I'm going to start by introducing you to our main attraction. This is Mac and Ollie and little puppy Cooper. And the reason that I'm bringing all of these little friendly furry creatures onto the screen today is because my daughter over the summer moved into a new to her apartment. And Ollie Mac was actually a little bit of a dumpster cat. He was retrieved by a veterinarian service. Ollie is a purebred ragdoll. And Ollie, about 2 months ago, started developing symptoms of asthma. He was coughing, he was having difficulty breathing. And so Ollie was really struggling. My daughter spent hundreds of dollars worth of tests. They diagnosed him with asthma. And then shortly after that, they adopted their little puppy, a little dachshund, Cooper. Cooper had a cough. And so at all of 5 pounds, he was having all of these issues with coughing and what seemed to be a respiratory infection. So again, more money spent at the veterinarian, finding out why does Cooper have a cough. Well, in the meantime, the apartment complex notified my daughter. She was very busy working from home, which is an important feature here. Working from home, and they said, we have water damage on the roof. Can you check your apartment and make sure you don't have any water damage stains? So she took pictures of an area that was like where the wall meets the ceiling and showed it to them. And they said, okay, we'll send somebody. And of course, weeks pass because she's busy working. Weeks pass, and she finally had somebody come over to repair the actual water damage. And that's when they had a ladder up against the wall and discovered, I don't know if you can see this picture on the left, the water damage there. But behind a picture it's over on the right, that was resting on the floating shelf, there was this huge area of mold right there in their apartment with all of the animals, with her. And she had just started developing a horrible cough, a lot of congestion. Of course, now we're dealing with SARS-CoV-2 and respiratory issues are a thing. And so she's thinking, oh my gosh, am I sick? Do I have COVID? And it was when that picture came down that we realized, oh my, you probably have symptoms of mold toxicity, potentially. So I don't know if you can see this picture over in the right. It's funny because there's a line that goes across where the top of the picture was resting. So it was hidden in plain sight, right? Right in her family room where she spent 24/7 because they don't leave because of COVID. And all of them were exposed to this mold. And the picture over here on the right shows mold on the back of the picture. But just like any other environmental toxin, you don't show symptoms until your personal barrel fills up. And unfortunately for Ollie, the cat's sake, and the little 5-pound dachshund, they were like the canaries in the gold mine, where they showed symptoms before the humans started showing symptoms. So I put this slide on there because there are just so many symptoms of mold toxicity. And I put this on here because there are so many times when we don't know exactly what is going wrong and we may have been treated, but if we don't continue to dig sometimes for an underlying cause, you could miss something that's significant, something that's in plain sight, very close, but you don't know that you're reacting to it. So everything from joint pain to headaches to night sweats, behavior problems in kids, anxiety. I didn't realize that anxiety, and which my daughter is now suffering from symptoms of anxiety as well, just over the last couple months. It is so ironic that there are so many symptoms that you can have and not really pay attention or relate it to the fact that it could be mold. So I added this slide because I just feel like it's important for all of us, if we do experience some of those symptoms, to realize all the different places where you can find it, whether it's in your car, refrigerator, washing machine, from a leak in your roof. Cardboard and paper tend to absorb a lot of those mycotoxins. And the problem is with a lot of these mold issues, it becomes airborne. And so you're inhaling it. And unfortunately for the cat, not only was the cat inhaling it, but cats also clean themselves. So anything that had fallen on its fur during the course of the day, it was also ingesting the mold. So I just wanted to share that. But before I go through any of the treatment protocol for what you would need to do to get rid of mold, I wanted to just take a moment to talk about some of the heavy metals because we're exposed to those as well. So heavy metals and really toxins in general are the things that we can use on a regular basis. They can be in our air, in our water, in our food. We can slather a lot of those products on our skin. They can be in pharmaceutical products. And the problem is that we need to have a way of getting rid of these toxins. We need to limit how much we're exposed to them, but also have a way of getting rid of them. And I wanted to draw specific attention to heavy metals today: lead, mercury, aluminum, arsenic, cadmium. A lot of these, like lead, you can get from pipes. Mercury, you can get from amalgam fillings. You can get it from like tuna fish or fish that swim in areas where they could absorb the mercury. You can even get small amounts of mercury. They use a product called thimerosal in some of the vaccines, and that is something that they use it's like a preservative. And they say, oh, it's small amounts, but unless your body can detox, or like I said, if you've got a threshold where you've already got a lot going on, a little bit of mercury can throw somebody over the edge. They also use aluminum sometimes, not only in deodorants, but also in some vaccines, because they consider it an adjuvant. It helps the vaccine work more effectively, because if they inject just a little bit of toxin into you, it initiates an immune response, which will potentiate the vaccine that you're actually getting. So I just wanted to add that because, they're talking about all these vaccines that are coming up for flu vaccine. Now, a lot of the flu vaccines don't have thimerosal in them now, but it's something to be aware of and to pay attention to. And you can get arsenic and cadmium from pollution and food sources and different things. So who are the people that are most affected by either the mycotoxins or the other heavy metal toxins? And that would be people who have a genetic predisposition. It could be people who have already been exposed to high levels of other toxins within the environment. It could be excess stress in your life, or advanced age. And everybody, like I said, has a different genetic makeup, and they have a different threshold. So 2 people could be exposed to the very same mold. They could be exposed to the very same, like in Flint, the very same amount of lead in the water. You can have one person react horribly and have, substantial effects. You could have another person that has no symptoms at all. So you can't just say because one person is not reacting that nobody else should react. And then the other people that are really more at risk are the people who are immunosuppressed, or they have an immunodeficiency or lung disease, or newborn babies, or the elderly. So everybody is affected just a little bit differently, and it's individual. So I did this little chart so we could get a good idea of how do we get exposed and what happens. So you have the environment exposures. So you have the toxic exposure and absorption. You have nutrition, which comes into play, and you also have your genetics. And on the left side, you have where you can actually excrete the toxins. And if you can excrete the toxins, then you live comfortably and you're well. If you have on the right side, you have toxic retention, meaning your detoxification pathways are not open and you retain or recycle some of those toxins, you end up with inflammation and disease. So what are all those effects if you can't get rid of them? Well, they can damage your cells. They can cause a lot of oxidative stress. They can cause your enzymes to not work well. The displacement is really interesting to me because, and I didn't realize this until the last couple of years, if you have a lot of lead, it can displace calcium or zinc, which are minerals that we need for normal function. Even mercury, high levels of mercury can interfere with B12, and they even say BPA can displace testosterone. You can also have immune system issues. You can have microbiome, is what happens, all the bacteria that's in your gut, the healthy bacteria, you can have an imbalance there. Epigenetics is kind of a fancy word for you have a genetic predisposition, but the environmental factors almost activate that gene into a process. And so you can have a gene susceptibility, but without the environmental exposure, you might not develop that condition. You can also have issues with your hormones. You can hold on to body extra fat. And some of these metals and things, especially mold, can pass the blood-brain barrier. And they've even seen some connections with Alzheimer's and mold toxicity. So what do we need for a good foundation for detoxification? Well, we need healthy cell membranes, and the cell membranes are made up of phospholipids, which are fat. We need good mineral balance. And then this little picture is a picture of a mitochondria. This is our little energy factory in the cells in the body. And when you have damage to these little factories, these little mitochondria, either on the membrane or inside, we can't make the energy we need in the body. And you'll see why that's important in a minute. But it's like a car with no gasoline. And CoQ10 can be a factor that we really need in order to make that energy. It helps that whole they call it a ATP cycle to make energy. We also need to be able to detox and rebuild cells with proper nutrition. I loved how Deborah said that at the beginning. So there's 3 phases of detoxification, and it's all about this process of taking substances in and then allows them to be kind of transformed and made more available so that they can exit the body. And we're designed to do that really easily. But if there's a fault in that process, then, and it even releases the stored toxins, I didn't say that, but if there's a default in that process, then we recycle or reabsorb some of those toxins. So the toxin tolerance is very individual. Your ability to clear them sometimes depends on what kind of toxin it is. And our resilience depends on the overall state of our health, which we talked about that in the slide before. So I just wanted to briefly, I don't want to go into huge amounts of detail, but there's 3 phases of detoxification. So the first phase is where we try to transform by these 3 methods. They're called oxidation, reduction, or hydrolysis. We try to convert them to a water-soluble form. And they require B2, B3, and iron. Okay, so you need your B vitamins for this particular phase. But we can upregulate phase 1 by living a stressful lifestyle, by eating a lot of meat, by even drinking a lot of caffeine. But it's really important for us to, when things get transformed in that initial stage, they need to continue to move through the process. If they stay kind of stuck between phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification, they cause the oxidative damage. So if we're doing a lot of things that upregulate phase 1 and not doing things to upregulate phase 2, we can have a lot more stress on the body. And so phase 1 also needs all these 60 different kinds of enzymes in order to move it through. So here's phase 2. Phase 2, and I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's 6 very important stages that are necessary for phase 2. And sulfation is one. That's where you need those cruciferous vegetables. When you have those cruciferous vegetables, it helps it to move past that first phase. Methylation is important, and that helps to rid the body of things like arsenic. Glutathione conjugation helps our body get rid of mercury and lead and cadmium. And acetylation, that helps your body to regulate histamines and serotonin. Glucuronidation, which is a fun word to say, helps your body to get rid of some of the pharmaceuticals and even some of the hormones. And then amino acid conjugation, taurine and glycine are really critical for this particular. They're amino acids that really help to facilitate the amino acid. Phase 3 detox is when we get those toxins out of our body. And in order for phase 3 to work, we need to make sure, so that things don't keep getting recycled back, we need to make sure that you're eliminating normally. And we use bile from our gallbladder in order to kind of attract, and it almost acts like a detergent to move some of those things from the bile comes from your liver, and then it helps to move that into your stool so you can eliminate it. And we also use urine to release toxins through our kidneys. So all of this, in order for it to get out of our body, requires energy. So if you've got issues, again, with that little mitochondria that I was talking about, and you don't have the energy, like because maybe you have a thyroid issue, or maybe you have insulin imbalance, or you don't have sufficient B vitamins, or even magnesium, or the CoQ10 that we talked about, your body doesn't have the energy to move it into this final phase. So that's why that's important. So this is a big chart, and I'm not going to go through all of it, but we have on the left, you can see there's endotoxins, and that means toxins within your body. Exotoxins, they come from outside your body. And then there's all these nutrients that we need to get through from phase 1 to phase 2. And then the conjugation reactions are what we just talked about. But if things get stuck in this section over here, then you're adding up a lot of inflammation, oxidative stress, free radical damage, all the things that can be disruptive to our body. So I just wanted to, I'm not going to talk about this much, but I wanted people to be aware that sometimes there can be genetic things that are happening with our individual body that might kind of inhibit phase 2 detoxification. So if you have the ability to investigate further to find out if one of these issues is a concern for you, then you can supplement appropriately so that you can get the right nutrients and the right support if you do have any of these genetic predispositions. And I put this on there. I know it's a whole lot of pictures, but the reason I put it on here is so that you could appreciate how many nutrients and vitamins that we need when we start going through a detoxification cycle. And then especially as you get down to the bottom, you see the 3 precursors that we need for glutathione, which is the glutamine, the glycine, and over here kind of tucked underneath this arrow is the cysteine. So those are all of our precursors to glutathione, which of course glutathione is what's getting rid of some of these heavy metals. But also, I discovered after my daughter had the mold incident, glutathione also helps to rid the body of those mycotoxins as well. So what do we all know that has glutathione in it? First, we'll say that glutathione is the body's master detoxifier. It gets rid of some of those free radical compounds. It's the most important antioxidant in the body. It's found in every cell. And once you use glutathione, if it attaches to a toxin, it leaves your body. It doesn't, normally glutathione can be recycled, but if it's attached to a toxin, it's eliminated from your body. And in 2018, there was a study that showed that daily supplementation of glutathione actually helped to enhance immune function and reduce oxidative stress. So I decided to put a little picture of longevity in here because even though this is a little blurry, it has so many of the essential things that we need for detoxification, not only of mycotoxins, but also of some of those heavy metals. So it includes things like selenium, which is also good for thyroid function. It includes milk thistle, really good support for your liver. It has a lot of those antioxidant blends within the Blana berry and the maqui berry. But it has those 3 precursors to glutathione, the glycine, the glutamine, and the cysteine, and the glutathione. And it has the R-lipoic acid, which helps your body to recycle the glutathione. So I think that's just, I wanted to share that because, Modexis is an excellent, excellent product. And most of the time when you see recommendations for glutathione, they are going to recommend a liposomal form. And the problem with that is in digestion, we end up, by the course of, stomach acid and digestion and everything, we lose the ability to absorb the glutathione. But because of the way that Dr. Charlie Rouse, he created this product, they have added features into the glutathione that don't allow it to be broken down in the same way. So I gave my daughter a bottle of longevity so that she could get through her mold detox. So we always want to remember to detox from a place of strength. So you don't want to start detoxing someone if they're in acute pain or having a lot of trouble with insomnia, if they have uncontrolled hypertension, or if they have an uncontrolled autoimmune condition. And we need to start with the basics. We need to clean up the toxins from water, food, their hygiene products, and even the air that they're breathing. And we want to optimize digestion and gut imbalances and make sure the liver and the kidneys are supported, because again, if we don't have the liver and kidneys working well, we're not going to be able to move things through that detoxification cycle. And we need to make sure bile is adequate, because the bile is continuously recycled. It can be recirculated 10 to 15 times. But if there's a toxin, a lot of times we'll recommend also, and I'll talk about this in a minute, we'll also recommend adding a binder that just helps to grab those toxins and eliminate them from the body. So I'm going to be quick. So there's 5 simple ways to detox better, you know, drinking tea, sleeping, eating cruciferous vegetables, sweating, hydrating. And then again, the glutathione, rebuilding cell membranes, and making sure you have the proper nutrients, the CoQ10, the B vitamins, magnesium, NAD, even foods like onion and garlic. And like I said, sometimes we need those binders, which like charcoal, and there are other items that are in nature that help to bind and eliminate toxins from your body. And then in the case of mold in particular, sometimes those mycotoxins can hide in a little protective barrier called a biofilm. So sometimes you need medications that actually disrupt that biofilm so that the body can get to it and get it out of the body. So with my daughter in mold, we had to also add, like I said, the biofilm disruptors. We had to add that binder. I gave her some nasal drops that had some special qualities to it, like grapeseed oil and xylitol, and recommended HEPA filter for her home, and cleaning everything. You have to clean everything. And if you can have it done professionally, that's really the only way to go when you have a problem. And then sometimes the proteolytic enzymes help break things down and get it out of your body. So, and then Thieves has a really good reputation for dealing with mold. So you can also diffuse essential oils and things like Thieves that have that anti-fungal property. So that is all I have for you. I want to thank you for letting me share my story of Ollie and Cooper and my daughter, and you know how scary it is sometimes when you have something going on and you don't even know right under your nose that it's causing a health issue. But nice to know we have products like Modexus's glutathione to help us through, you know, heavy metal exposures, mold exposure, mycotoxin exposures. And then Ian Shippey and Mark Hyman are resources that, and also my school, that I used resources from there to put this together today. And this is how you can reach me if you ever need to chat, at astepawaycoaching.com. And I'll turn it back to you, Liz.
Oh, great.
Sharing.
Great. Oh, Michelle, that was fantastic. I mean, I always come to these and I feel like I'm in night school. I just love it. I just love it. So I know that most of you, I think we're all muted, but I would love it if anyone would like to ask Michelle any questions, just unmute yourself. And if we don't want to get people talking on top of each other, but we'll just go one at a time. Just raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask. I know that I'm really curious because I know Lynn, that she was going through, she had quite a story when she spoke about the toxicity from fillings. And so would that be considered heavy metal then, right, Lynn?
Yeah, it's funny that we're talking about this. Just as we were doing this, you were doing the presentation, I unpacked my box of supplements from Quicksilver Scientific. I'm going through a detox for cadmium.
Okay.
So it's ironically, after I had all those fillings taken out, I did a test, a hair mineral analysis test, as well as a urine test. It was the tri test. So had tested blood, urine, and hair. And I had no problem with the mercury. Apparently my body is able to detoxify mercury very well. and it's in the normal range, which is kind of shocking to me, but I have a very high toxicity of cadmium at a 91%.
Wow.
So I'll be on a heavy metal detox for the next 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And just again, that would be one of those things where just make sure that you're starting that from a place of strength, so you're got a good diet, you are eliminating the environment, you know, and
Yeah,
then
and that's what I've been working on. I've been working on all that since I thought I was having to deal with mercury. But so I've got my pathways working. But I think that some of my issues, so I've been having this rash on my skin. It almost looks like it could be ringworm, but I don't think it is. And it comes and goes. And it's just like mad when when I have a really bad day, it itches really crazy and then it goes away. And then it comes back, but it never completely heals. And so I knew that there was something else that I needed to look into. And that's why I did the try test. But yes, I think I'm actually doing a Colorado cleanse right now to kind of prepare myself. And I've been eating really healthy. So that's the plan, is for this to all go well for the next 2 months so that I can retest and find out that things are back to, maybe not back to normal yet, but at least at a better place.
right. Yeah. Well, congratulations for digging deeper, because I think that's part of the issue is that sometimes we don't know to look. So we just accept it as our new normal. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
We know ourselves best.
Right. Okay, Lisa.
Michelle, that was awesome. And I'm so glad that you found the source. That kind of is my question. Had that leak not happened in the building, I mean, so many of the symptoms and that you listed are crossover to indicate so many other things that could be wrong.
Mhm.
What do you do if you didn't find that? Is there a test for mold? Do you go in and someone test you for all these allergies and mold is one of them, and then you go back to the home and try to find it?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is if you can get a mold, and they're expensive. That's the problem, is that they're very expensive to have somebody come out and do it. Now with her, they had the issue already in the building, so they knew something could potentially be there. But when the professionals came out to do the testing, because I freaked out and I sent her like all the stuff, they said it wasn't bad enough for them to do remediation, which I was very upset about,
Where did
because
they
I would have had her move out of her apartment and had professionals come in and do like the thorough cleaning. They were literally chipping that off the wall while she was there, which I think is horrific. So it's upsetting, but it was also a series of lessons. If you can do blood tests for mycotoxins, and when her cat had all those issues, and they don't listen to their mom ever, I said, call your vet and tell them that you had this mold issue in your house to see if there's something that you can, because I know what to do for the human. I don't know what to do for your cat and your dog. So there are blood tests that you can do. There are companies that come out, and a lot of times there are some companies that you can even cut a square out of the filter in your furnace and send a piece of that, because that's recirculating the air. And you can send a piece of that for evaluation, and that's a less expensive way of doing it. But then you have to have somebody come and figure out where the mold is concentrated and whether or not it's a more dangerous type of mold. Because there are some molds that don't produce the same toxins. It's really more along the black molds and, some of the other that, are more dangerous, because you inhale them, but then they can also cross the blood-brain barrier. And a really sad story, my godmother, when she passed away, I spent the night in her home with her daughter, and she had Alzheimer's really badly. And I went down into her basement to get something, and I have mold allergies, and it almost like knocked me out when I walked through the basement doorway. And I thought, I wonder if part of her Alzheimer's was a result of her living in a home where she probably didn't go downstairs anymore, but the mold was so bad that I wondered if that could have been what led to her Alzheimer's. So, anyway, but there are tests and there are companies that come out and do research around your home. But I would say if you're still having symptoms and you've like resolved a bunch of other things, you need to look at it. And also, if you have recurrent yeast issues, sometimes there can be an underlying mold component with chronic yeast.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Judy.
Yeah, in transparency, I work very closely with Michelle. We're meeting weekly and we have been for months and trying to get to some underlying health issues. And so much of what you've talked about, Michelle, correlate at some level. You know, you've talked about with me what you just shared on these slides, and it just leads to, it helps me understand that I'm heading in the right direction. My question is, when I moved into my apartment, it was a disaster. The people that had lived here before had been here 18 years. And so it was just a complete bombshell where they were taking down drapes and pulling down drywall and all kinds of things. But I'm not convinced that they ever cleaned the air ducts.
Mm.
Can air ducts be a harboring area for mold? Because if it is, I will be reaching out to my complex to better understand what their plan of action is, given the things that you and I are working with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have another story. One of my coworkers years ago, her daughter was working in a building, and she was directly under an air vent. And they found out after she had multiple problems with asthma that they couldn't get controlled. And then they started having her work from home and she got better. And I think that's the biggest key. If you go on vacation and you feel better than you do when you're living at home, that's a sign. There's something in your home, you know. So I would pay attention to all of those kinds of things. If you're at work and you feel better when you get home, pay attention to the work. Or if you felt different before you moved into the apartment than you do now, you know, like the issues with the cat had no problems until they moved to that apartment. So
Can dust and just built up stuff in ductwork and in just an older apartment complex, can they mimic some of these things that you've talked about? No, you focused
just
on mold.
dust.
Well, whatever debris lands up in your ductwork, you know, there's all kinds
Yeah, I
of.
think you can have other symptoms related to it. It doesn't necessarily have to just be mold, but I think, you know, they can always clean it. That's a good place to start.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if it's old, you know, it's always a good idea with old carpets and things because really you have 24, I think they said 24 to 72 hours when you have a flood of getting rid of the moisture. So I mean, these poor cities and everything that have been affected by the hurricanes and everything, you know, I don't know how you protect or take care of everybody soon enough with situations like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you're traveling, we had somebody that we knew that traveled to St. Croix and they had hurricanes a couple of years ago and they felt like there was maybe a mold issue in the place where they stayed. So,
So,
You know, my opinion is no matter, we moved into our home, we had the ducts cleaned right away. I mean, it's just one of those things that it doesn't matter. I mean, who cares who lived here before or not? You know, there's got to be stuff up there. And if you talk to most people, they never clean their ducts, never even thought about cleaning their ducts. You know, how can it hurt? It's not that expensive, actually. Probably a vet bill will be more expensive than cleaning the ducts in your home.
yeah.
well, and we ended up, after that had happened, we ended up putting some ultraviolet. There's a way that you can put ultraviolet lights within your furnace that helps as the air recycles or whatever, you can kill some of those things. And HEPA filters are wonderful
Mhm.
for situations that you can't readily control. What is that? iWave?
Exactly
Oh,
what you're
send me
talking.
that.
It's exactly what you're talking about, except that with the we had the lights in our furnace up on Colo Road. We lived in Lebanon, and they go out. You have to keep replacing them. They can be expensive, and this is, I guess, a new technology. I'm just checking into. It's called iWave,
Yeah.
and it's where you attach this to your furnace, and it basically neutralizes all well, basically everything.
Yeah. So
Mold,
you're taking care of the viruses too.
yeah, molds, bacteria, viruses, allergens, odors, smoke, particles, everything. So
Share that.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
share it with everybody.
Okay,
Well,
good.
I'm still researching it. There's so many scams out there. I'm going, okay, what's all this about? That's why because I really feel that that's the easiest, simplest. It's not necessarily the cheapest, but you just attach it into your furnace system, into your air return,
Mhm.
and let the ions kill everything that's moving through the air. Because the whole point, like they said, especially going into the winter, we want our air to recirculate at least 6 times every hour. So we tried it last night. We had on Friday night, we had 4 people open. We opened 5 windows, cross ventilation through the whole house. It was 50 degrees out. We turned all the fans on in the house fan and said, okay, can we live with this in the wintertime?
Mhm.
And you can do it. And especially if you had one of these in the furnace, anything passing through, then it's killed automatically.
Mhm. Okay,
So,
interesting. Okay, does anybody else have anything? Yes, Lynn.
Michelle, I just wanted to add that if you've never heard of the company Natural Holistic Vet,
Oh, okay.
products for your pets that I'm
Oh.
actually working with one of my cats right now that has worms. So,
Okay.
um,
It's called Natural Holistic Pets.
yep, it's NH Natural Holistic Vet. I'm sorry. So it's NHV. Let me just double check. I'm gonna get the bottle, but yeah,
Okay.
Natural
Yeah.
Holistic. It's a green logo or like a red, orange and green logo.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, and
I
then
appreciate
there was, it's like this.
that. Okay. Awesome.
Right.
And then as far as the mold kits, I can send a link. I think there's also a home test kit that you can do
Mhm.
in 3 different rooms. And I
Yeah.
think the kit is only like $49. So if you
Yeah.
know of specific areas that you want to test, you
Mhm.
can use that.
Right.
as
So,
a treat.
Yeah.
right, Lynn, would you mind putting that in the chat? Because then I'll have that chat saved.
Which one? The
If you just click the chat, any of that information on the, that you were just talking about the mold kit.
yeah, I might have to look it up. That's the only
Okay,
thing.
or just get it to me and then that way I can let people know that if they are interested in that.
Yeah, and actually, like bleach is not necessarily something good to do clothes with. I think that, but there are in some of those kits, they do have like laundry detergent that's really effective if you have laundry that needs to be like rewashed and done. They really say go through your whole house and clean everything, clean all the laundry, throw away books. If you have books you can't throw away, put them in a sealed container, that you only access, like go out into your garage and open it if you need something in there. But I mean, because once they're in paper, they're very hard to get rid of. So, and some of those sites do also have, like I ended up buying one of it's like, it's not a diffuser, but it's like I don't even know what you call it. It's like a room diffuser that, you can spray down the entire room. Um, and they have topical products, they have candles, they have like she had done one of those little petri dishes and had just done it on her carpet or left one open on her shelf, and it just like turned crazy within a couple days.
So Michelle, how do you know, or will your daughter know, was it just her symptoms will go away and that's how you know she's kind of healing from the mold toxins, or what's the prognosis? I mean, what happens?
Yeah, so with all of the supplements, she should be able to detoxify a
Okay.
lot of those. So the glutathione is really critical for that. And some of those, like I said, the biofilm, for her particular case, the biofilm disruptors and the binders.
Mhm.
If she is still, like I said, she has anxiety now, which is a new symptom for her. Um, I want her to go get tested. I will send her for testing if she continues to have symptoms. It's only been a couple weeks,
Okay.
2 weeks, but the cat is much better.
Okay. The
The
cat's
dog
okay.
stopped coughing.
Good.
So, and I just feel like because they're smaller animals, they were bigger gauges more quickly than she was
Right.
because they're smaller.
Right. And I just have a question. I know because we have a couple of realtors or people that are associated with realtors. Is that ever in a home inspection? Or is that
Home.
I mean, do they test for mold when you go to buy a home?
There's a disclosure that you fill out, that the sellers fill out, that stating if they know if there's mold or not, or if there has ever been mold remediation.
Okay.
Then they declare that, and there should be documentation that goes with it.
Okay.
It's included in the inspection. You have to pay extra for, that's the buyers do, for a different level of a mold test.
Okay.
Usually you'll find something in a report that says a mold-like substance or potential mold, bacteria or biological growth. And then it just depends on what level you want to take that next level of inspection to go to.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to add or ask Michelle? Yes, Teresa.
I have a question, and the reason I'm asking is because I have a patient right now that may have to have a lung transplant.
Ooh.
So my question is, and I mean, they haven't really determined if it were mold in the apartment. They did find, she lived in an apartment complex. She's 40 years old, and her lungs just totally, it was really bad. They thought she had pneumonia first. She was hospitalized. How do you know when it's serious? Like, how do you know which mold is really serious and what you could kind of let go or treat with a detox, or what really requires a lot of help? Because
I think, yeah.
did not really know until she had gotten sick. She had pneumonia, it just wouldn't go away. Kind of one thing led to another. And then somehow, with the apartment building she was living in, it was discovered that there was some sort of water damage or something had happened. And then it was determined that it was probably this dangerous black mold. And she was the only person apparently that got sick from it. But is it just like a fluke that you would get that sick? Or, I mean, how do you know?
Yeah, and I think it has to do with that individual person and their susceptibility or their threshold on where they would have symptoms. I know for my daughter, when she took her cat in to have all those x-rays and everything done, the cat had like a little mass inside its lungs before they discovered the mold. So they were like, oh, we don't know, there's a spot, on his lung. So I think there's actual damage that can occur, and I don't know if that can be reversed. So I would say if there's permanent symptoms, you may not be able to completely get rid of it. You may have permanent damage, but I think the threshold for everybody is different. I think that unfortunately she may have been in an area where it was more concentrated or not left her, like all these people working from home,
Yeah.
they're not
40 years
leaving their
old.
houses now. So,
Yeah.
if you're in a situation where it's bad where you are and you don't have a break from it, it could get worse quicker.
Right. Deb, you had something you want to add?
I just wanted to share a little bit of what my experience was. I was in my 20s, and this just kind of shows a difference in people. And we were in a basement apartment, and I developed a cough, and it was persistent. It didn't go away. Well, we discovered in the back of our headboard from our bed was covered in black mold.
Oh.
And so this cough lasted a year for me. even after we moved out, my husband never had any symptoms whatsoever. So we were sleeping in the same bed, you know, and obviously it's just a difference in people. And to give people hope, all my symptoms went away. We left the apartment. I was totally good after that. My cough went away, and I've never had any symptoms or pneumonia or anything respiratory since then. So,
But you do have an autoimmune, which that's part of what, right? The Hashimoto's?
me?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't have Hashimoto's.
Oh, you don't? I thought you
No.
did. Okay.
No.
I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I think everybody's different. Their threshold is different.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Oh, Michelle, this was fantastic.
Cool.
Okay. If anybody else have anything else? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't cutting somebody off. So, well, this was great seeing everybody. Always love doing this, and I always come away learning so much. And Michelle, you were so gracious, and just really, you shared some incredible information. Really, really great. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. And as always, this is recorded. Should you ever would like to see the recording, I'll have it uploaded and available.
It doesn't destroy itself in 10 seconds, huh?
It does not. It does not. Okay, everybody, have a great remainder of your week. And thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye, everyone.